Fun fact, all these extras are apparently from the Toy Tokusatsu fan club, and they were asked to act like they were on ecstasy. Keep living the dream, y'all. We opened this week with Shoma, of course, saving Kanto from being fished off by Logge by using his Gurukhan form to tank the attack. And fortunately, the enemy rider decided to fall back after noticing that Longo was watching him. However, Shoma still needed to get his partner patched up, and as has been previously established, neither of them could go to a regular hospital due to their unusual biologies. What's that? You want me taken back to the store that you came from? Seriously, y'all don't have like prop versions of that thing? Nah, of course. He ended up taking him to Suga and his illegal facility that would probably make Black Jack blush. Though, at least he is better at covering wounds than opening them up. At the same time, the stomach execs were discussing Vlam and trying to figure out who he was, as a certain someone was just keeping quiet. Dude, I can see you smiling from this angle. No you can't? Conversely, Shoma was bad at keeping secrets, as all Suga had to do to learn that he was Gavv was use this one trick that I remember from a Death Note fan comic. Though, to kind of even out the playing field, Suga did introduce himself and reveal that he was the one who modded Hanto. It didn't quite make up for him covertly stealing some of his hair like an obsessive fanboy, but hey, at least he's not supporting the idol industry. Meanwhile, Logge had learned that his alter ego had been labeled as another Granute Hunter, which was technically kind of true, but more importantly, he still hadn't been busted, and thus wanted to get closer to the Stomachs for the sake of his brother, who he managed to get a better look at. Damn it, why haven't they patched up Google Translate already? That night, Shoma checked in with Sachika and was forced to tell a little white lie, which has kind of been a thing with him recently. But yeah, he still hadn't found the missing boy from last week, and thus had to assume the worst. He tried to look for him by going back to all of the previous Granute facilities, in particular the scene where Hanto defended him, likely so that they could call back to that little meme. Still, good stuff, as it did give us a good sense of urgency as Shoma desperately looked for this one missing kid. Through his search, he encountered Logge and figured that he could lead them to another Granute facility. They ended up at college where the evil jellyfish interrupted a lecture about fashion. Sensei, what should we do if a full-grown woman asks for a school uniform? Well, supply and demand. Shoma ended up witnessing almost the entirety of Logge's process of acquiring human presses, minus the actual pressing part, as thankfully he stopped him before that. Well, great. Now all these guys have to worry about is being expelled, fired, and possibly jailed for using drugs on campus. Oh well, at least they made for a chilling backdrop as the two riders fought untransformed, though in the case of one of them, that actually made him stronger. But yeah, still an awesome fight where we actually got to see Shoma's actor do a lot of his own stunts and really emote. Through it, he both got across his ideals and also accused Logge of doing all of this just for some dark treats, even though that wasn't exactly the case. Thankfully, saying that didn't trigger him, like saying that he was a part of the Stomach family, unlike his opponent, who he then tried to take his driver from. You're a giant nerd who tries to wear these things all the time? Nah, of course, he figured out that he was also a Granute, and thus decided to let Shoma fight him on more equal grounds. Of course, in his base form, Shoma was much weaker statistically, and didn't stand much of a chance, though interestingly, both of these guys are still weaker than Kizuna Red. Wait, so that bow is also a chainsaw scythe?
My penis can only get so erect.
Also, I see they're still making good use out of that broken shoulder piece. Nice. But yeah, this is all around a good brutal fight, which you wouldn't think at first when they start off by using sound effects like Echoes Act 2, and yet Logge was just relentless, and they really took advantage of this unique setting of this multi-leveled college campus. Fortunately for Shoma, he managed to briefly stop their fight by revealing that he knew more about the inner workings of Stomach Inc. than him. Well, okay, now that you two have some common ground, maybe you could exchange some intel and... This is why y'all don't try to hold in your emotions, otherwise you become an angsty edgelord. But yeah, Lage had jumped to the conclusion that Shoma was a Grand New Hunter from their world who worked for the Stomachs. As such, he figured he might have been the hitman who took out his brother, Kamen, who, as we saw through a flashback, was almost a stereotypically good kid.
兄ちゃんがこれ食べて、俺これ。
ありがとう。
Or, you know, you could just break off more of that larger piece. I mean, don't get me wrong, for the brief time we got to know him, I did end up liking this character, and of course felt bad when he fell into the dark treat addiction that ultimately led to his end. And while he didn't pass on due to ODing like I originally expected, it is still pretty damn dark to have a kid character be taken out by a drug deal gone bad. As such, it was pretty sad to see him pass on in his brother's arms, who, as we saw in the flashback, was infinitely more cheerful, to the point I'm getting flashbacks to a certain shiny rock Sentai. Of course, Shoma denied Lage's claims, and I guess he believed him based on the look in the writer's eyes. He also clarified where he got his powers from. But, you know, at least a few possible mods from your grunkle. Just saying, you should at least give a little credit. In turn, Shoma questioned Lage and ended up learning about his whole infiltration process into Stomach Inc. that we had already mostly seen in the show. Still, it was nice and emotional, and really highlighted how far he had changed since losing his brother in that flashback. Kohei Shoji and Eitoku really deserve a lot of credit for their voice acting and body language respectively, for really showing how much Lage had fallen. He and his brother were clearly living in poverty, but they still had happy lives until the dark treats entered their lives. Well, okay, now that you two have some common ground, maybe you can actually work things out a little better and... You know, I'm starting to think this guy could use a few anger management classes. This led to one of the most brutal bits in this whole show, with Shoma trying to guard against Lage with his sword, only to have it dig into his own shoulder. Like, I'm pretty sure we can't show anything, but needless to say, it's kind of surreal to see the super colorful shiny toy actually cut into its own owner. Anyway, Shoma tried to win Lage over, both to get another ally, and also prevent his own self-amputation. He also, of course, used the Martha story again, but thankfully, he also took the time to make Lage realize that he should reflect on the many people that he had already abducted and likely already turned into dark treats. This does address my concern that they were just gonna forgive Lage, because right now at least, it seems like they're not. They make it clear that his sins aren't just going to go away, and redemption might not even truly come for him, at least in some perceptions, but ultimately, Shoma was fighting a losing battle, and they did need all the help they could get. However, that wasn't going to be this week, as the episode ended with Lage sparing Shoma, but not siding with him. Also, shouldn't he transform back into his Grand Nude form, considering that's what he went in with? Nah, whatever. Well, this was just a great and emotional episode. I mean, obviously, both of the fights were great, with the writer starting off untransformed, and then going into a unique setting for the remainder of their bout. However, the highlight was of course Lage and his admittedly tragic backstory. When it comes to face turning a villain, it can be tricky, especially if they have a body count like Lage. Yeah, he technically didn't end anyone directly, but he still did end up sending a lot of them to a factory where they will be processed. Thus, I like that they make it clear that he shouldn't be totally forgiven, but at least he can do the right thing now. And yeah, his backstory with his brother does gain him some genuine sympathy, not justification, but at least we do now understand why he chose to go down such an amoral path, as it is tragic that both his brother and his old self passed away the day he returned with that mortal wound. The identity of that attacker is also intriguing, as it'll likely be one of the Stomachs, or at least someone closely connected with them. But yeah, on that note, I also appreciate how dark yet realistic the show remains. Which you wouldn't think with all of these characters running around in some obvious costumes, and yet Komel's fate felt all too real of an outcome for anyone who gets into narcotics. The brutal fights this week also really highlighted how far the writers are going to fall if they continue down their current paths. It all makes for overall a very strong episode that's starting to win me over with the idea of working with Lage. He might have plenty of sins to answer for, but the Stomachs have way more than him. Thanks for watching. Again, If you want some healthier addictions, well, the videos on this channel don't have any additives. We're covering some good stuff this current season, and hopefully we'll have even more good stuff as the year is only just beginning. Look forward to whatever comes next. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and you know, I think I should probably go check on something. Hey, how y'all holding up? You want some drinks?